Hi, and welcome back to a podcast over a convenience store. I'm Joe Fremming from the Joe Down, and with me is Paul Muad'Dib from Cast That Movie. How's it going, Paul?
It's going well. I got my coffee, I got my cigarettes. We watched a damn good episode. We watched one episode, which was amazing. I'm feeling great, actually. Voldemort aside.
Voldemort aside, I was so excited before we recorded this. I ate myself a big jelly donut just because, fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
Voldemort can't prevent me from eating my jelly donuts. And so, yes, we are after weeks and weeks, we have finally hit the end of season 1 of Twin Peaks. Uh, Something I have called a perfect season of television, and I stand by that.
I do too. One thing I want to note before we get into that is, as you notice, this is coming a little early for you guys. Joe and I have decided that we are going to make this a weekly podcast versus every 2 weeks. So Merry Christmas to you. You guys are going to get more Twin Peaks. Yes, I completely agree with that. This is one of the, if not the most perfect seasons of television. We took our jabs at the show over time, and we'll take our jabs more. But this 8 episode stretch was perfect for what they were setting up.
Yes, and what better way to end the season is with the architect of Twin Peaks, Mark Frost, pulling double duties of writing and directing this episode. And right off the bat, because I just kind of want to, I think he did a good job with this. The pacing is great. He tries to do his weird Lynchian things, which kind of threw me off a bit, but overall, it has like a really good. The beats are really consistent. It keeps you pretty focused for season finale.
It does, and I noticed in this one when we start talking about particular scenes in this one, I'm gonna deep dive a little bit into Frost, and some things because there's 2 things that stood out to me in particular that moved away from the conventional feeling of Twin Peaks into other territories that Frost has done, and I'll point those out and make my case when those occur. But one of the cool things I'll talk about this is that Richard Hoover, who was a production designer, said that episode 7 featured some really unusual sets. There was other things in the series as well, but this one in particular, that the sound stages were constructed with ceilings and functional hallways, which was very unusual at the time and even now for television production, which allowed actors to be filmed entering a scene without having to do cuts. You'll see that a lot of times on sitcoms when someone is entering or exiting a scene, there's cuts because of the way the set is open. And with this one, in this particular, everything was set up so that way, the way that the way that Frost wanted to direct it and do the cinematography, he relied on very heavily and had some extra sound stages made up.
Wow, I had no idea. I had no idea he did that.
Mm-hmm.
I did it did feel like some of his background with Hill Street Blues to me, and spots just like you said, his background in actual television.
Mm-hmm.
It felt very, it felt like a compact episode in a series where it's not a compact show.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought up Hill Street Blues because there's 2 things in this. There's 2 particular scenes, in this episode that are very, very, very like I'm a huge fan of Hill Street Blues. I rewatched it, love that show, and Frost was a story writer, a story editor, and one other, I forget what his other task was on it. Executive story editor. And so this really felt like he was leaning on several things in the show, the action sequences in the show, based upon his history of Hill Street Blues. The other thing that to note too is that when this aired, It got 22% of the available audience.
Holy,
Yeah, that's for people that
that's
don't know,
huge.
that's huge. That's like Super Bowl, that's like special event level audience viewing that you get 22% of the Nielsen ratings of the people viewing in for a hour long show. That's giant.
And this had to have been like one of the last times that actually happened, since cable kind of blew up just a few years after this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yes.
when people talk about like the MASH finale, because MASH had I think it was like the largest viewer numbers in television history, and people try to compare that to like when Seinfeld ended. But when Seinfeld ended, there wasn't just 3 or 4 channels that by that point. That by 1998, there was hundreds of channels you're competing. So
Yeah.
like this is like a bygone era now where one show would get that many eyeballs on it.
And to give you a representation of that, so it was on ABC. It debuted May 23rd, 1990. In the U.S., it was viewed by 12.6% of U.S. households, representing 22% of the available audience. It held the record. I don't know when it was broken, but it held the record for the most viewed broadcast in that time slot for years. Now, to give you an idea, the previous episode had 17%. So it like people really wanted to know what was going on this
Yeah,
and how this was
this
going to end for the season.
yeah, this was the show that pretty much coined cooler show. People would talk about it at work. A lot of people were like, it's like a central mystery. We got a lot of things going on. Yeah, and I want to mention, because between this season and the next season, people were so hungry for Twin Peaks that they released the book, The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yep.
because they can't be cranked, they had to like actually write and film the second season. It's one of those things that was like rare. It was rare, especially then, to have a tie-in book and other media connected with a TV show.
Absolutely. And the other thing that occurred was newspaper clippings, and I remember this, that they were putting out like polls of what they thought was, what people thought about the ending, who they thought the killer was, and and kind of like who shot JR. There was polls of who shot Cooper. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but we'll get to that. But yes, I mean, if you're listening to this, it's a spoiler heavy show. Obviously, we're going to get to that point. But this set off a media firestorm of people wanting to go off the wave of what this craziness was at the time, of people unprecedentedly watching a hour long freaking soap opera.
Yes, it's yeah. You and I, we remember our parents talking about this. It was a cultural phenomenon, and in our background here, because we kind of prop this, especially the first season, and maybe a little bit in the second season, with the kidnapping of Jacob Wetterling from our hometown area.
Yep.
We're from St. Cloud. He was from St. Joseph. Uh,
Which
this,
is what, 20 miles away, and not
yeah,
even that.
20 miles away. Yeah, I mean, I have one of my best friends is like really close with the Wetterling family, so it's just it was we had this mystery on TV we're watching, and we also have this real life
I take
mystery.
that back, Joe. It's not even 20 miles. It's 8 miles away.
Wow.
Yeah, eight
Yeah.
miles away.
So much like how Invitation to Love is like kind of mirroring the events going on in the show's kind of mirroring what's going on in our real life,
Yep.
in a sense.
And at this point, well, a lot of things were dying down because of the tips, things of that nature that were going on. Patty Wetterling started the Wetterling Foundation, or was beginning to get the goings of the Wetterling Foundation. She was constantly buying airtime. Um, I don't know how they got the money for that. I'm sure a lot of people donated it locally. A lot of the stations did, to allow her to appeal. I mean, this was commonplace.
Yeah. So
That
July 2nd, she Foundation, the Jacob Wetterling Foundation, offers a national database assistance program to help families of missing children, which was and remains huge.
It is huge. It was very, very huge. And if I'm not mistaken, they helped with the what was that band that put out that Runaway Train?
Oh, Soul
Soul
Asylum.
Asylum.
Also from Minnesota.
Also from Minnesota. And that's where they got the inspiration for Runaway Train. And working with the foundation, along with other ones. I don't want to belittle anyone that with all the efforts. There was a lot of things that were there, but the Wetterling Foundation was one of those ones. And so they would, and MTV was really cool about this. They would actually edit that video every so many weeks with new missing kids.
Yes. Yeah, it was I remember that, and that was, that's pretty crazy, even, especially back then, because editing and redistributing music videos was not a cheap thing to do.
Not at that time, no. I mean, this was still film. This was still, you had, the special effects were not so special back in that day. Editing was a much harder process. Again, Photoshop was barely a thing. Yeah, it's amazing that MTV went along with that and allowed that. And that Soul Asylum was really cool about that. And it kept them relevant for a while, but it also, I think, burned them out because that became the video that you watched for missing kids. And
yeah, now it's associated with your band.
It was a double-edged sword for them, but God bless them for doing it.
Yeah, I've actually interviewed Dave Perner, lead singer of Soul Asylum, for work. People don't know I work in news media. Nice guy, very nice guy. I don't know if he was stoned, but he seemed very stoned.
So I don't know.
Nicest guy in the world, but
so I'll tell you, it's funny you bring that up because I do have a story about that. Trying to interview someone, I ended up going to a show at First Avenue. I was under the influence of many things when I went, and I ended up meeting a band and trying to convince them that I was a editor and writer for one of the colleges in St. Cloud, and did an interview with them.
Honestly, it wouldn't take much to convince a lot of bands of that. They have no idea.
Yeah, it was quite interesting.
That band turned out to be Nirvana.
No, that band turned out to be Apples in Stereo.
No, I like them. They're a good band.
They're a good band. I got a signed CD and T-shirt out of it, so and a story that never got written.
At least you didn't have an editor waiting for that story not to be written.
Dude, it would have been very gonzo because I was gone.
Well, let's dig into the episode. Episode 7, episode 8, technically, The Last Evening. Again, these titles, I believe, were added for DVD purposes because they needed chapter titles. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Let us know in the comments because I love it when people point out how wrong I am all the time.
Just like you do in all my other podcasts, motherfucker.
I didn't know you were wrong. I pointed out Airwolf was your cast of Dune.
Let's not forget that I got Gwyneth Paltrow confused with
Cameron Diaz.
Yes, thank you. I took a sip of coffee because I wasn't going to say it. So the episode opens up with palm trees and music, or playing a palm tree, and it starts right off. Like, I love this because it starts right where episode 7 ended.
Yes, and this episode and how episode 7 opened up too is like one of the few times the show's kind of like picked up right where it left off. Because the episode before is Cooper's in his bedroom with Audrey, which left off from the episode before. We really don't get that a whole lot with Twin Peaks. But yeah, this picks up with Donna's Nancy Drew mystery. Where
yes.
her and goddamn James.
Her and James. Now here's the thing. When it opens up and it's them, you know what? He's got the look, he does everything. and then he opens his mouth, and I'm like, oh my god, even Frost can't write this character, and he made him. Uh, it's unfortunate, but so it goes to show once again how smart they are, because like they pull out the. What I loved was the kind of the first thing James finds is the umbrellas of all
Yes.
the dates of all the different foo drinks that he'd been drinking, and he has the umbrella, and it's like 1969 Men on the Moon, and then like what was it, 1976 I first lay eyes on Mimsy. I want to know that story. I want to know who the fuck is Mimsy, and like what happened with Jacoby there. So
Also, I love
Donna,
that Jacoby seems like he's loosely based off Hunter S. Thompson.
yes, very much so. I think that's an intentional reference. Absolutely. Um,
But yeah,
so
Donna's hitting buttons, changing the music. Not exactly, I mean, just because it happens in Scooby Doo doesn't mean you should.
it was
But
very Scooby.
she does remember Laura talking about a coconut, and they open it up and they find a tape and the missing tape, and they also find the necklace.
Yes.
I want to jump ahead just a little bit here because this is because James eventually gives this tape to Agent Cooper.
Yes.
This tape would not even be if Jacoby was the killer, and this tape had him saying he murdered Laura in cold blood, inadmissible in court.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's the fruit of the forbidden tree, it's called in legal terms.
Yes, yeah, it would have been completely inadmissible. They would have totally fucked up everything. Had Jacoby been the killer, this would have been like his ability to walk. He could have just straight up admit he did it and walk at this point because of all the fucking fuckery that they did there. What was really interesting to me though is they listened to it, and James immediately goes, he wasn't trying to kill her, he was trying to help her. But then Donna throws out the red herring once again and goes, but then why does he have the necklace? So he's not off the hook, even though, you listen to the tape, they still are keeping that red herring that what was Jacob, right? Well, yeah, why does Jacoby have the necklace? It's a valid point.
Yeah, it's weird he has it. My memory isn't as fresh because this kind of gets kind of convoluted in the next season. I don't remember why he was following James and Donna. I remember him saying he was following a red Corvette, which had been Leo, but
He was following a red Corvette, which had been Leo, and then and then Leo lost him, and
oh
then
yeah,
he
then he followed.
then he
Followed James.
yep, because then he saw the two kids on the motorcycle, and we're like, what are they doing out here? And he followed them and saw them burying some. Yeah,
He's just a nosy neighbor.
He's a nosy neighbor. That's all Jacoby really is. He's harmless, but they still pointed at him. So,
and so
going back.
Yes. Now we're going back. They have the tape. They have it.
Before even that, fucking Bobby Briggs.
Oh yeah, he plants the cocaine.
Yep. He plants the cocaine, makes a bullet, and again, I'm going, why is he doing that? He wasn't dating Donna. Snake was. We haven't seen Snake.
Wait, he's Mike, man. Quit using this one-time nickname they gave him, man. What the fuck?
I know. And especially when you see what he becomes in the return, you're like, oh, Snake.
Oh.
Who's your accountant, Snake? Oh man.
Was he an insurance agent? I thought
that's what he was. I'm sorry, he was an insurance agent. Yes. He was an insurance agent.
We're jumping ahead 25 years at this. Yeah, so Bobby plants the coke. Again, he's mad at James for really no reason.
No reason.
Because he didn't really love Laura. He was, he's in love with Shelley.
Mm-hmm.
This is just, it's a weird thread to have. When we have our critical eyes on this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But again, this is us watching with the critical eyes.
Exactly.
I don't question it when I'm just sitting back and watching Twin Peaks.
Nope, I don't either. And then it cuts to Jacoby, who was able to, from the video, they told him to go to 21st and Sparkwood, which is where the necklace was.
Yeah.
And instead he went to Easter Park, which is where Maddie is dressed up as Laura.
Just standing there.
Just standing there hanging out. And then some dude beats him up.
Yeah, somebody just be, it could be this is the 80s. This could have been a guy who hated hippies. We don't know.
I think I know who did it, but do they ever say who did it?
It was Leland.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just don't remember them ever coming out, but yes, it was Leland.
I think it's brought up in season 2. I'm pretty sure I'm like 99% sure it's Leland.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that it was. But here's my thought.
Because last time we saw him, he was laying on that couch.
He was sitting on the couch, and they didn't know he was there, and they're all
Maddie leaves, which is another red herring.
Yep.
And then again, I'm kind of okay. So Laura's like this huge thing. Wouldn't you think one car would have stopped and said, "Holy shit, is that Laura Palmer?"
Well,
she's standing out.
So, has the curfew been lifted from the pilot? I mean, it's only 2 days, 3 days, or a week.
Curfew's for the kids, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
neighborhood patrol. Like, what the fuck? Laura Palmer. She's wearing the blonde wig.
And yeah, it's you. I have to agree. She's out in public. She's at a park. Someone would have seen her. I mean, it's a small town. I'm thinking someone would have seen her. Like, hey, why the hell don't after you record that, why don't you sit in the fucking car, take the wig off, put your glasses back on so you don't draw attention to yourself. But again, we're looking at it with a critical eye.
Yeah.
But so yeah, he's in there, and then you see a masked dude who turns out to be Leland.
Yep. This is Leland knocks him out, which causes him to have a heart attack.
He doesn't knock him out. He beats him in the back with a fucking rock, Joe.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you beat up a hippie.
Jesus.
That's how we did it in Woodstock.
I mean, it's kind of brutal. And I'm knowing what we know, I'm like, why does he have the mask for one? But yeah. So then he rolls over. And they do a heartbeat thing, and then it's a cool shot, very kind of what I felt was one of the Lynchian things, where it goes into his eye, and then the eye becomes the roulette wheel.
Yeah, this is one of the two Lynchian moments. The other one we'll get to. It's with Jacques.
Yep.
But yeah. So speaking, we're at One-Eyed Jack's now, where Cooper is satiating his crippling gambling addiction.
Counting, and he's a car counter. He's an illegal
car counter.
He's a car counter.
I'm pretty sure they don't teach that in the FBI, everybody.
And poor Ed is losing his shirt on everything. He can't even get one of the brothel girls to go with him. She leaves him. What the...
Well, I mean, he looks like he's an Adonis with that wig and mustache.
Yeah, that's they're orthodontists, right? From Seattle. That's what their cover is.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So Cooper has like the most ridiculous hand ever in blackjack, and starts telling who's Jacques is dealing cards there, because that's another way Jacques made his money. Was working at the brothel as a dealer, and he starts convincing him that he's Leo's money.
Yeah, he's the bank.
He's the bank. He basically, and unknown to him, who was the bank? It was Horn, who was the bank. Yeah. But so he tips Leo with the $1,000 poker chip so he's using evidence.
Yeah, this is the poker chip that the chipped part was found in Laura's stomach during the autopsy. Albert, I wish we had a little Albert in this episode, but Albert found the chip, the broken part of the chip, and then this one Cooper found at Jacques' apartment.
We'll get a lot of Albert in season 2, and thank God, because that's what makes season 2 worth watching, is more Albert.
The return. We get him a lot in the return.
Oh my God, I loved him in the return. I just love Miguel Ferrer in general. There's just anything he's in. I fucking love that dude. RoboCop, hello.
Oh God, him and Andrew Packard in RoboCop.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, him and Andrew Packard are in RoboCop. So maybe, we could have just recasted Twin Peaks as RoboCop. Or I could have done that with
And Ray Wise.
Yes, and Ray Rise was in there as well.
A lot of these character actors showed up in a lot of the same projects.
Where was Red? Why wasn't Red in Twin Peaks? So,
he's too busy putting a foot up somebody's ass.
so, so yeah, he's using state's evidence. He's using federal evidence
and federal money
and federal money to gamble. And I think this is what you're going to say is the other Lynchian part. Is he
like the bullet, baby?
Yeah, there's this weird slow-mo of, and he just drank a beer and it's wet and it's gross and it's a cut up of this fat fucking Walter Okewitz's mouth and it's just gross. But gets them to basically admit that they were all there at the time.
Yeah, he tricks them. He's like, telling me the story of the night with the girls. He gives it, but his take is, Laura, the bird was loved Laura, and they let the bird, while she was tied up, let the bird peck at her.
Well, Leo was giving her the dirty business with his cock meat, and
hot dogging her.
Yeah, hot dogging her, and so we find out how the blood happened. They got in a fight, and Leo fucking stabbed.
He hit him in the head with a whiskey bottle.
That's what it was. He hit him in the head with a whiskey bottle, broke a whiskey bottle over his fucking head. So Leo gave him his shirt to put the blood on it, and that's how the blood got on his shirt. And then when he passed out, and when he woke up, everybody's gone. And Leo left him there and drove off. So with a broken skull, Jacques Renault had to walk 50 miles to his house. Yep. Had to walk 50 miles to his house.
These aren't exactly upstanding people, so I guess I can buy it. What happens in Firewalk with Me is a little different.
It's a little different.
Leland's the one who knocks Jacques out.
Yep.
Well, outside taking a piss. I don't even remember if the whiskey bottle thing even happens in Firewalk with Me. I don't remember it.
No, there's a lot of retconning in that. And the other thing that makes it interesting is that Laura Palmer died that night. The next day, everything's occurred. How did Leo get his shirt back? just one of those things.
He just walked. Maybe like when Jacques was knocked out, he just walked up to his bleeding head,
grabbed his shirt and left. That very possible. Very possible.
Give me my shirt, fucker.
Give me my shirt, you bleeding fuck. Yeah. So I was just like, how did he get his shirt back? But yeah, so they then just say, okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna meet me in 2 hours. Cooper says, and
water processing plant.
Yes,
there's a job for him.
Yep. Now I want to talk about this because this is the part I was talking about. This is so Hill Street Blues. The style of the show changes during all of this to me. It felt like a completely different show when I was watching this, and I loved it. I mean, just the way that Lynch directed it, the action of it. What was really interesting, I want to bring this up, was that the exterior shot for that was actually shot in Burbank, California. And Frost wanted it because of the large, unusual shaped buildings, which were lit from behind to enhance the silhouettes. And you can tell, like, this is, they get the cops involved, they're doing this, and you can definitely tell that Frost had some leanings in old cop procedurals, because this scene, like I said, the way it's framed, the way it's shot, the movements of it are totally different than the rest of the show and the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's it feels like a lot. It does feel like a procedural. It's not. I like it. I like that he wasn't trying to ape David Lynch too much. I think that happened. That became like especially in season 2, it became problematic with directors because they were starting to do weird things for the sake of being weird. Lynch, what Frost was doing here, I like, because he's just he's doing what he knows, and
yes,
that's what he knows. And then, so I do want to say, like, the water processing plant where uh, Harry sitting in, and he
Yes.
like got the smoky streets at night. Like I just half expected like hearing a bluesy guitar riff like you'd hear like old Highlander episodes in a
Oh,
dark alley.
absolutely, absolutely. And here, and
And a saxophone.
the other show that Frost wrote on, which totally borrows from that as well, was The Equalizer.
Oh yes, 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 yes,
Yes,
yes.
he wrote a couple. He wrote 2 episodes for The Equalizer, and that totally has that like Equalizer vibe when they're sitting there and it's smoking, it's rolling out. So yeah, so they and what's the best part is that they're still talking in code. They're doing all the fish references. Susie, as soon as I see a fin, we'll go in.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, but
So
also we have another thing happening at One Eyed Jacks. Before we move on,
yes.
Audrey is now dabbling in the flesh trade in
Hmm.
her investigation. It's kind of funny. We got all these people working in their own investigations instead of leaving it to the police because their investigations really are leading things nowhere.
Nowhere.
But she's working for
Blackie.
Blackie, and so yeah, she's gonna be broken in by the owner, is what
Mhm.
is alluded. Which we don't really get it this episode, but
No.
it becomes like, oh god, no, 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 and
Well, it is
actually,
alluded at this episode
yeah,
because they
yeah,
do the
because Ben,
signing. They
yeah,
right.
yeah, they're signing, and I want to also add, Audrey thinks Cooper is there to
Help her.
help her because she sees him on the security camera.
Yep. So she gets this breath of relief. She's thinking she's going to be saved by Cooper, and he has no ass clue that that she's there because he had a crabby nut. Because remember, he didn't talk to her that morning and was super crabby and never went back to get to get the letter that she left him. So, yeah, she thinks Cooper's there to get her, and Blackie makes her pick out is doing tarot with playing cards, which I didn't quite understand. If you watch, she has a tarot. I was watching that. I was like, that's not solitaire, that's a tarot layout. And
Yeah,
she's doing tarot layouts with regular cards and makes her pick out a name. So she has the Queen of Hearts.
diamonds.
I'm
She does
sorry,
the Queen of Diamonds.
Queen of Diamonds. And who is it stitching? It's like a weird hunchback witch thing. What was that about?
I have no.
Like that never registered with me before to watching this, and I'm like, what is up with the witch outfit hunchback thing that's doing that, and then exits through a hidden door, and then Ben Horn comes in. So after they do the signing, with the Icelanders, Ghostwood and country clubs,
The worst business deal
the
in
worst
television
business
history.
in television history, is Blackie says to him, "Good work, boss." So you are told there, without it being beaten over your head like it is in season 2, that it's more subtly that if you've been paying attention, he's the owner of One Eye Jacks.
Yeah, he owns it. The Renaults are kind of like the muscle.
Yes. So while this is going on, fucking Shelley was at home washing her hair in the sink like an idiot.
Yeah. Okay. So they have their washer and dryer outside their house, and apparently they don't have a shower because she's washing her hair in the sink.
And when you're waiting for Leo to show up, you shot the dude, you know he's fucking crazy. Why would you do anything of the sorts? I mean, what the fuck are you thinking?
Run to the hills, Shelly. Run to the
Right.
hills.
So as she's watching her hair, she gets soap in her eyes, and I liked how creepy that was, where he fucks with her even while he's shot and still dealing with that shit. He's still got to be an asshole. So as she's reaching for the towel, he's pulling the towel away from her. He didn't just grab her when she got in there. He wanted to fuck with her, and so he carries her and takes her away. And let's just do this part. Let's just go to the sawmill. So he's hired to burn down the sawmill by Ben Horn.
Yep, and he has the comically large gas can still, and I want to add a fucking duster.
A duster. He's wearing a duster.
He's wearing Mac's duster from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Fuck yeah, he is. Dusters were the shit though in the 90s. Dusters and trench coats. If you were a bad guy, you wore dusters and trench coats. So I can't harp too much on that. But he's also got like the worst bomb rig ever. It's just it's like Looney Tunes comical how it's set up. It's like a clock on a board with like some firecrackers. I didn't quite understand it. I was like, what is that and how's that going to do anything? But
It's literally a firecracker that sets off a fuse to set off another bomb.
yeah, it's comical when you really look at it. You're like, holy shit.
He bought it from the Acme company.
He did. So he's got Shelly there, which is the dumbest fucking thing because
Let's talk about how stupid the mill thing is. Yes, because not only is Shelly like this is supposed to look like an accident,
right?
Because look, when something burns like this, you're gonna have insurance and police investigating the hell out of this. So anything suspicious, you don't want there, especially not just one potential dead body that would be Shelly, two with Catherine Martell, the person who formerly owned it.
So I want to talk a little bit about this and we'll go off track a little bit because I don't know if you heard or not, but in our hometown, a very prestigious bar, well, I shouldn't say prestigious, but a historical bar burned down. The press burned down. And
that was something of a bar.
It was something of a bar. Well, it turns out that the owner did it for insurance money because he owed $300,000 all over fucking town and was going through a divorce. And the divorce was going to lead the bar to his ex-wife or his soon-to-be ex-wife. So he intentionally set the bar on fire, Joe.
Yeah, and he was arrested within days.
He was arrested within days because they're like, hey, we found, obviously, when shit burns down like that, they do investigations, insurance investigations. You find something that is an intentional, like when you find like a fuse at the site, or like a rig, or like a leftover of a fucking metal clock, which isn't going to burn all the way down. People are going to know you.
Giant, comically large gas cans.
Right. What the fuck was this? And then they're going to look for the bodies. And when no one knows who the bodies are, as things burn down, they're going to identify from the teeth and other means. So they're going to find out that Shelley Johnson, who had no business being in that fucking mill, was in the mill. And Catherine Martell, who had no business being there late at night, was burned down in the mill. So let's get to Catherine.
And let's also add, Ghostwood is something that's very public that people know Ben Horn is trying to build.
Yep.
Because he doesn't own it, but yet he's signing papers for development on it. And again, there was the protest flyer, Stop the Ghostwood Development, at the Double R. It's not a secret. He would be in jail 2 seconds after that burned.
Yeah. Absolutely he would. So they so Catherine, the one of the books are missing.
Yeah, the cooked ledger that we've gone over wouldn't make any sense.
Wouldn't make any sense is missing. So she goes to Pete because she knows that Pete had given Josie where the ledger was at one point. And she goes to Pete to try and get help. And I love that scene.
Yeah, it actually shows like she does care about Pete.
Yes.
And
it shows that Pete is still in love with her.
Yeah, Pete is I love Pete. Jack Nance was he played this role really well. It's so crazy to me to think that he was so Henry in Eraserhead. Just how polar opposite
and
performances are.
Excuse me, and all the issues that he had going on in his personal life.
Yeah.
He was just so professional and played this character amazingly. And so, they kind of rekindle the spark and he's running around, he's trying to help her. And then he gets sidetracked by his high school yearbook. And then she gets a call. Now, this is another thing that bothered me. Critical eye. She gets a call from Hank from the payphone at the Double R. Telling her that what she's looking for is in the particular mill that's going to get burned down. She's like, what do you want? for this. And he's like, we'll be in touch, knowing full well that she's going to die. Now, they cut later to Norma sitting at a booth, not fucking 6 feet away from where that damn phone is.
Yeah.
How did she not overhear that he's doing this? I mean, again, a critical eye. I still love it, but as I'm doing it for the podcast, I'm like, man.
And considering she didn't want him released in the first place, like overhearing that, I have a feeling Norma would have gone to the cops.
Yes.
Like, Cake's threatening people on the phone, get him the hell out of my diner.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And this goes to Hank's amazing ability to know what people are doing at home at any given moment, because how else would he have known that Catherine was at that moment searching for the ledger? This goes back to his letter he sent to Josie, which was the sketch. He just happened to know when she opened the mail.
Right. Yep. He has a magical ability to just know what people are doing. So, yeah, and he knew that she'd be looking for it. So at this point, I mean, how did she even know that the ledger? How did they even know outside of her that the ledger was missing? No one else knew except for her that she knew the ledger was missing. So, whatever.
Well, no, Josie. No, Ben has it. Ben has the ledger.
That's true. Ben does have the ledger. But I mean, how is she? I mean, who would have known that she even would have been looking for it at that point?
Yeah, at that time. See, that's Hank's magic.
Yeah, that is Hank's magic. So, Catherine goes out. Sends Pete on his way, and she goes out to the.
Oh, and she has one of my favorite lines too.
Go for it.
Oh, let me see where is because Shelly's tied up, and she's mumbling, and Catherine looks at her and she's like, I can't understand. You have a thing in your mouth. She's just, every time I laugh at that line, it's like she's just got to be such a fucking asshole.
And she's debating saving her.
Yeah.
She's debating saving her. You can see it. She's emoting debating.
After hearing Shelley say James was always cool, I would be debating that too.
Oh, God damn it. Yeah, I know. We'll get to that. So, because James... all right. So, yes. She's debating getting her out and finally gets her out of there. And she's like, who are you? And she's like, I'm Shelley Johnson. She doesn't even bother telling her that Leo did all this stuff, right? Like, I would want to be like, as you're getting things out of there. So the Millster, and this is the other scene that is unlike everything else that's Twin Peaks. The way that this is filmed, the way that the fire is going, the way that things are going. Again, it's Frost leaning on his Hill Street Blues days. It totally has a completely different feel than the rest of the show. The camera angles are again moved to more like a procedural, especially the lower Dutch angle. Yeah. Of when it cuts to Hank, or excuse me, when it cuts to Pete, and he has my is Catherine still around? Has everyone seen Catherine? Not yet, Pete. All right, I'm going in there. You can't do that, Pete. He's like, she's still my wife. And it's just like, yes, you're awesome, Pete. You just love him in this show. So he goes flying in there yelling for Catherine as the place is burning down. Yeah. You don't know what happened.
And it's great. Pete is, again, he's one of my favorite characters, and I love how they wrapped him up in secret history because, Jack Nance unfortunately passed away in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. When Audrey, during the finale of season 2, he dies saving Audrey.
Yes.
He's just a good guy.
Yep. That's when we get in the secret history. We'll go on that, but yes, it just goes to the character. He dies saving Audrey from the explosion. That was in the series finale, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. That was in the series finale. I couldn't remember if it was a couple episodes before, but I think it was actually in the series finale.
It was during because these episodes. Okay, this will be a common theme with the season finales of Twin Peaks. They all end on cliffhangers.
Every single one.
Even the return. The only thing Twin Peaks that does not end on a cliffhanger is Fire Walk With Me, where I feel we got a very legitimate end to the story of Laura Palmer.
I completely agree with you. 100%.
And it's the only definitive ending to anything of Lynch that I can remember.
I would completely agree with you on that. 1,000%. And I think that had more to do with, just because it was a prequel and was leading up to something, it
Yep.
put him in a corner. It painted baby in a corner, and he had to do it. But so that happens, and then I want to get to this real briefly, because at the end of this, I really want to talk a little bit about what I would have liked to have seen. As I was doing this, I was writing down notes of what I would like to have seen, what season 2 would have been a little bit different in my mind, of how I would have ended some of these storylines than what they did. And I think it could have saved season 2. But cut to Nadine.
Saying you wouldn't have Piper Laurie show up in Yellowface?
Oh my God. Okay. First of all, though, okay, as bad as that is an amazing makeup job. To the point where it fooled people on set.
Yeah, I thought it was just a weird looking character. Honestly, I wasn't thinking it was going to be Catherine, but it's offensive in so many ways.
It's offensive in so many ways, and I actually thought it was that they got a different actor, and they didn't. And there was people on set that had no idea for a couple shootings that it was her, and they wanted it that way.
Yep. It was the keep mysteries and all that. This is like actually one of the first shows where I think they didn't let any of except for key cast members know what was going on.
I'm going to point out that even key cast members didn't know, because at the end of I noticed something at the end of this episode as well, that was they were keeping everyone out of the loop, key people included. So real quick, I want to cut to, while this is all going on, Nadine commits suicide.
This is heartbreaking. This gets me every time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because Nadine's not one of my favorite characters, but having, we're older now. We've known people who have taken their lives.
Absolutely.
This hits hard every time I see it.
Hard. And I noticed something, that they use a version of the Twin Peaks variation that is never used again, and it's a gorgeous piece of music.
It's a more innocent sounding version of it too.
It is. Yeah, it's a very straightforward, very innocent, very it's almost like it's in a major than a minor. It's beautiful. It's a really beautiful piece of music. And she's in her dress, and the reason why she's killing herself is because we didn't get into this in the previous episodes, because we were kind of glossing through stuff, was that she found out that her patent was denied by one patenter, and Ed had told her, "Hey, there's other patenters. We can try again." And she's totally distraught, and so she puts on her it was her prom dress.
Yeah, and I would even say this is more than just a patent. I think she just because she knows Ed's with her, just because he's a good guy and wouldn't want to hurt her, but she knows Ed loves Norma.
Yes, that's never been hidden, and that really also gets into the secret history as well,
and the return
the return. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's heartbreaking because Nadine's a tragic character.
Very much so. Very much so.
It's just, and then like you hear because it sounds like it's in a major.
Yeah.
The Twin Peaks theme, and it sounds a little more innocent, and it sounds like, because of all the characters in this show, because almost all of them do shitty things.
Nadine's really the only truly innocent character.
Yeah, she doesn't really do anything wrong.
No.
I mean, she's a little grating at times, but she really is not. Not up to the shenanigans everybody else is up to.
No, her only crime is that she legitimately loves Ed too much.
Yes.
That is her only sin in the entire thing, is that she loves Ed to the point of strangulation, metaphorically.
Yes.
And so, she puts the pills in a bowl, and then she just says goodbye. She writes a note, says goodbye, and that is... Oh, it's so heart-wrenching. It's a really tough scene.
And then it followed up a little bit later because Ed finds her, and it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah. We'll
get to that.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that now, because after everything's all said and done.
Yeah, let's get to it now, because Ed finds her, and look, like we said, Ed's a good guy, and
Hmm.
part of him does love Nadine. Just he
Absolutely,
doesn't
he
love
does.
her like he loves Norma.
No, no, he loves her more like a child. It's
Yeah,
more of a parental love for her, and because he just wants to protect her and just wants to keep her happy and safe. That's really all Ed wants. And he finds her, and he just gets in and he makes the phone call. My wife just took a bunch of pills. You need to get here quick. And he's trying to get her back up, and that's really where that gets left for the episode.
yeah.
So going back, I want to we're jumping around, but I want to go back to the police to the when they catch Jacques, because
Shock, yeah, because this dumb dumb.
she
But this is
they get
actually brilliant of Cooper because he gets him on American soil. Because we've kind of made poke, we took our pot shots at like Cooper and doing like trying to like do law enforcement across the border. His
Mhm.
brilliance is he gets the criminal back into the states.
He does. He's like, "Hey, I'll meet you there in 2 hours. Get to the States. We'll do this thing." So as they're trying to arrest him, he starts struggling, grabs one of the cops' guns, and pulls it on
Harry.
Truman, on Harry. And I love the editing in this one. Like I said, this is really where I got that procedural, because you hear "look out" and it does a close up on Harry as he jumps behind the door of his car, and you hear a shot ring out, and it's motherfucking Andy.
The guy who cries at dead bodies.
Yep. Yep. And it just goes to show that the training that they had been working on him with, and I thought that was a great culmination of like everyone trying to get Andy to be a good cop, and with Cooper's influence. And this is the payoff of Andy's hard work of wanting to be a good cop.
Yep, and the shooting practice Cooper had him do.
Hmm.
Well, because I believe it was like episode 2 or 3.
Yep.
Cooper's like, Andy, I want you to 2 hours at the range or whatever with Harry and Hawk. It paid off.
It
He
paid off.
saved Harry's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah,
Which also,
I
now I'm thinking of this kind of also mirrors what happens in the last episode of The Return. Except it's not Andy and Lucy are the saviors.
yes. 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 Absolutely. Totally. This is a throwback. Yes, I think that was a total throwback to this. So freaking love that. Um, and Annie's all super cool about it.
Yeah, he's
And
they're telling the tales of Andy shooting Jacques. Jacques, it's not a lethal wound.
nope,
Uh, he's hit, but they have to
got him
bring
in
him
the
to the
shoulder.
hospital. Yeah, but Andy Hawk is like talking it up. Everybody's excited, and even to the point where Lucy is like, "Hey, Andy, what happened?" Type of
Yeah,
thing.
and they're fighting, and they're fighting, right?
Yep.
And so now they're like, "Hey, this is your chance, Andy. Get in there." And she tells Andy that she's pregnant,
Yes.
and he calls her Punky. Punky. I love that.
Yep. This is another one of those cliffhanger type things, like where they just kind of drop another bomb on us. Especially
Mhm.
those of us who enjoy Andy and Lucy, like myself and
I
Paul
love
here.
Andy and Lucy. I love Andy and Lucy so much.
Yes.
And so yeah, he um
He's in
uh
shock.
he's in shock and walks away, and you don't understand it. You don't understand quite why that happens. We will in season 2, and I'm going to argue some things here as we go into that. There's going to be spoilers going to season 2 towards the end of this. So so then they get Jock to the hospital, and he admits everything, but
Yeah,
again,
everything up and except for the murder of Laura Palmer. At this point, it's still red herrings pointing at Leo, considering,
hmm
okay, Jacques out of, he was there, he got bashed in the head, and he passed out outside. And Cooper says he's too dumb to lie.
yes, yes, exactly. So they pretty much know that that he implicated Leo, and they like Leo killed Laura Palmer. We got to get Leo. And after they sign the agreement, there's a phone call made from Hank to Ben at One Eye Jacks, that they're gonna black flag the firebug, meaning that they are going to kill Leo.
Yeah.
And Ben Horn's like, "Yep, do it." Now, this is the one smart thing that has gone on here.
Yes. At least you get rid of the guy who did it, so he can't rat on you.
And here's the thing: is that now, okay, because Leo had Shelley Johnson in there, even though Ghostwood and everything is done, this is the best thing. This is the best luck that Ben Horn would have walked into had everything gone the way it was supposed to. Because you could have blamed it on Leo being fucking nuts and wanting to kill Shelley. Like that was something that could have had everything gone to plan, and the mill burned down and Leo was killed and Shelley was fucking burned in the mill. That would have taken all the heat actually off of Ben Horn.
Would it though? Because Catherine would have still been there.
Catherine would have been there, but at the same time,
he's the kind of guy who's trying to develop it. I mean, it's still pointing at him. It's just not as he has plausible deniability at this.
He has very much has plausible deniability because you could have made the point that one of the fucking Renaults killed him.
Yeah.
Over something. So yeah,
I have no idea why Catherine was there. Maybe she was in on it or something.
Exactly, right? So yeah, they could have done all this thing. So it's revealed that Hank is meeting with Josie, and Josie is not a good person. And you learn the character that Josie is, by the way, in the Secret History is not the character we got in the show.
No, I think we talked about this in a previous spot. She's basically Oren from Kill Bill. She's an assassin, part of the Yakuza type of thing, like organized
triads.
Triads, yes. She is a badass character in Secret History.
She's a badass in Secret History. And you learn that she had her husband, Andrew Packard, killed by Hank.
Yes.
And Hank
boating accident.
In a boating accident.
Well, I believe the boat exploded in the boathouse.
Yes. And no one put two and two together on that because, you don't call them the feds for that one.
A lot of things blow up in Twin Peaks for no reason.
Just happens. And so he killed this other dude driving so he could be avoided being... I didn't quite understand that because I'm going, if you killed another dude and you were implicated in another murder, they would have brought that up in your trial.
Yeah. What he was trying to do is I believe in Secret History he set a bomb.
Yes.
He set the bomb, and so when the bomb went off, that's when he ran over this poor son of a bitch who had nothing to do with this.
Yes.
Probably some dude just out for a walk.
Yep. It was a homeless dude. Yep. Ran over a homeless dude. So when the bomb went off, he wouldn't be linked to the killing of Andrew Packard.
Yeah.
And so the deal was $90,000 that she was going to pay him when he got out. And now he wants more money, and he goes with this big speech about time and whatever, and how much time is worth.
My favorite part is she's just like, we had an agreement. This is where we kind of get a little bit of the background we got from her, in that she's not taking his shit. Like, she's not afraid of him. Well, when we watch this and we don't know Secret History, there's menace there because Hank's this doofus, but he does have a mean streak in him.
Mm-hmm.
Secret History, now knowing this, I'm like, dear God, Hank, get the hell out of there before she fucks you up.
Right. And later she gets someone to fuck him up.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean Hank's a doofus, and she's a stone cold killer since she was in her teens. Wow, she is a badass, and I wish we would have gotten more of that character.
Hank is continually just out of his element. He is Donnie from The Big Lebowski.
He really is. He really, really is Donnie. So at this point, Bobby shows up to grab Shelley because he has no idea what's going on. So he shows up at Leo's house to get Shelley, and Leo's there.
Yes, which is, in this sort of love triangle, I guess I would not want to be in Bobby's shoes, except, we we know, and we'll continue to hammer this home. Bobby shot a cop.
Bobby shot a cop. Bobby shot a crooked cop. Oh yeah, Bobby shot a cop.
Not only that, he killed a cop.
He straight up murdered a police officer. So he shows up and he's just totally aloof, and he tries turning things around like, oh man, the cops are looking for you. And Leo goes after him with a fucking axe. And the only thing that
What's Leo's end game in this?
I think Leo was gonna fucking hightail out of town. I really do. That's what I think Leo's. I think Leo. I mean,
well, his wife's found at the burned mill, and then like that's suspicious. And then like his home, he's got chopped up nephew with an axe.
And here's the interesting thing that I forgot to bring up. That when he's leaving the mill and leaving Shelley there, you made me do this. It's
like the cliched abusive.
Yeah, he's such a man child. He is such a fucking man child. So, as he's right about to kill Bobby, he gets shot, and he gets shot in the fucking neck. He gets shot in like in the shoulder and the neck area, like where the neck meets the shoulder.
This is the second time he's been shot in
24 hours. In 24 hours. This is the second time he's been shot in 24 hours. And Bobby looks out the window, and it's Hank.
Yeah, sees Hank. Then he's just Hank. Like, yep, I'm out.
Yep, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. So to wrap it up, oh, no, we can't wrap it up because then
we got the hospital. Leland popped in earlier at the police station, talked to Doc Hayward.
And it's like, I heard you got the guy. How did you hear? There's no internet. Do you have a CB radio in your house? How did you know, Leland? You were at home.
The owls are not what they see.
Absolutely. That's exactly why I think he knew.
Yeah. So, so Leland finds out that Jacques is in the hospital, and Leland decides to have some vigilante justice on the man he thinks, or he claims he thinks, killed his daughter.
And what I will say is that when I watched it for the first time and didn't know and what Leland, turned out to be and how season 2 goes, I totally empathized with this move. I actually did.
Yeah, I mean, his daughter was found brutally murdered. Mm-hmm. His life's upside down. I mean, there's things like this happen in real life where, suspects are killed.
Yes.
By grieving parents. It's a thing that happens.
Yeah, so he sets off the fire alarm to get everyone out of that ward, and smothers Jacques to death with a pillow, and then quickly sneaks out. So to summarize, Jacoby is in the hospital with a heart attack after getting beat up.
Not just beat up, like you corrected me. He was bludgeoned with a rock.
He was bludgeoned in the back with a rock several times. Pete, Catherine, and Shelley, no idea what's happening with them.
Nope. Pete went into the blaze to find his wife almost begrudgingly. Like, she's my wife.
Yep. Leo is presumed shot and killed. Nadine commits suicide. And we get to Cooper, and he's in his hotel room, and he gets the note, and his phone rings. Now, here's something I wanted to get back to what you had stated earlier, which was actors did not know what was going on. What Cooper says and was told to say on the phone, and then what was later put on to be Andy, those two things don't connect. And that clicked with me today because he's like, hello? Who is this? Can this wait till morning? Hold on. I got to knock it, room service, right? Oh, and then it cuts to, you hear, Cooper, it's Andy. It's Andy. And you're going, that would not have been the conversation.
Yeah. Yep. That's a really weird way of him answering the phone. And then he would have known that was Andy. And then if he would have known they had Leo, he would have beelined it right to
Exactly. Now, here's the thing that I don't understand how they got Leo because of the fuckery that occurred in all of this. Um, James takes everything to the police. And Bobby earlier had made a call saying he was Leo Johnson and that they needed to investigate James because he's an easy rider.
Yep.
And so when he gets there, they put two and two together with the easy rider comment and check the gas tank and find the cocaine that Bobby planted. Um, so they talk about Easter Park and how the phone, when Lucy took the message, she heard the park bell going off, or the park, the sound of the chime going off when he called. And so they took all the paroles. They said, hey, get all the paroles off of Leo's house and put them on Easter Park. So I didn't understand when he calls and they say they got Leo, why they had done that, because they weren't looking at Leo's house. And Leo's house is in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to hear that gunshot.
My guess, I mean, this is just speculation. Mm-hmm. My guess is after they got Jacques and he confessed, they went to Leo's house.
Oh, that may be. And that very well may be.
That just that would make sense. Even though he's kind of missing, you'd still want to like check the home, especially after Jacques had just confessed that they were together with Laura and Ronette the night Laura died.
Sure. But we
don't
maybe. Yeah, we don't know because again, they were supposed to pull everyone off the house and do that. So there was that weird conversation. I do think that they just gave him lines and then put that in editing, the Andy part.
Yeah, it sounds like overdub.
It does sound like overdub, and it's just to make the again, it goes back to Joe's point that they were trying to keep everything a secret from everybody.
And they want to add the cliffhanger. So like Leo's in jail. Oh shit. And then guess what? The knock on the door. Cooper opens it. Bam, bam, bam. He's shot.
He's shot three times. Shit,
they shot Agent Cooper.
They shot Agent Cooper 3 times. And that is the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's a hell of... And this is paying homage to Dallas, who shot JR.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I mean, it's, the Twin Peaks... it pokes fun at those nightly soap operas, but it also, like, you can make fun, but it's also, that's where you're getting a lot of the styles and all this from. So I think there was a fine line between mockery and paying tribute. I mean, Dallas was no high quality show, but this seemed like a nod to like a clever thing they actually did.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, again, to sum it up, I mean, there are so many things at this point with so many characters, A, B, C, D plot characters, that you have no idea what's going to happen with them. And this is the end of the season.
Yes. Yep. And it's great.
It's great.
It's front to back. This is I said it at the beginning here. It's a perfect season of television. It ends with you wanting more. I mean,
so much more. You want at least resolution of something.
Because all the threads we were dealing with in this season culminated in this last episode. The mill, the Renaults, One-Eyed Jacks. And there's just like a few strings still left. Like what's going to happen with Audrey? Holy crap, is her dad, like you're going to Game of Thrones this shit,
Mm-hmm. Now, going back to how you said this was a perfect season of television, I'm going to do some of the receptions of this episode and of the series in general up to this point. Some of these are newer ones of people going back. I'm going to go to some of the older ones, but I'll start with the AV Club. The AV Club, Keith Phillips rated the episode an A. finding that the multiple cliffhanger plot threads worked well and didn't seem to go over the top or self-parodying. Phillips himself felt the first season was, quote, a near perfect run of television, further describing it as a, quote, stretch of greatness that for one reason or another couldn't be sustained, but it was terrific while it lasted. Al Roby's Andrea Levasseur awarded the episode 4 out of 5 stars, adding with several characters meeting their fate in this episode, including 2 main suspects. The mystery of Laura Palmer's murder is even more puzzling, and writing for Entertainment Weekly, Ken Tucker rated it a plus, finding that its lack of plot resolution offered, quote, a good kind of annoyance, showing the level of interest and commitment the series has inspired in its viewers. This was loved. This episode was loved, and it was by far probably the perfect cap to a season ever. And it was probably one of the first times something like this had ever been done as well. Nothing had done this much on a cliffhanger before. And unlike now, where seasons don't mean a whole lot, you know, I think South Park's on what, like almost fucking 36, 37 at this point?
Yeah.
Because of the way seasons work nowadays. On network television, you know, seasons would typically stop in May and wouldn't start up again till September. Now, this was a different 8-episode run. So at this point, it's only been 2 months of the story. And you got 22, you know, you got the 22% of available audiences tuning in to the final episode. Gives you an idea of how this was. And, you know, I want to get into a little bit, you know, I'm going to bring in a little bit of my cast this movie vibe into this podcast, if you don't mind, Joe.
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
Because I feel like there's things that I would have done very differently going into season 2. The main ones I would have done is I would have made Leo dead, and I would have made Nadine dead. I would have kept those characters dead, because I would like to have seen I think there would have been more drama with seeing Ed dealing with his guilt of Nadine's death. And his continuing love of Norma. I would have loved to have seen more about him kind of spiraling down into this, what do I do with myself, versus what we got in season 2. And same thing with Leo. What we got with Leo was atrocious in season 2. It would have been better to have left him dead.
He doesn't do much in season 2.
No, he doesn't do much of worth in season 2. I also probably would have left Catherine out. Although for what they were doing with it actually does make sense what they did with her. Even if it's as horribly racist as it turned out to be, probably could have been handled, you know, I mean, if it was differently. But those are 2 things that I would have done a little bit differently in terms of that. And the other thing I would have done differently is I would have had Audrey be confronted by Ben. And because that's the other cliffhanger, is that he's coming in to fuck the new girl, and he's walking down the hallway, and she can see him through a mirror, and he can't see her, and she knows it's her dad. I would have had those 2 get confronted in season 2 and see where that would have gone versus what we got. But I think that was probably the original intent, but given what was to occur behind the scenes at that point, and the fact that because of Laura Flynn Boyle, we didn't get the love affair of Cooper and Audrey. I think that's why they did it that way, kind of keeping her away from Cooper for a majority of that first part of the second season. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They kept her away from almost the whole season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I 100% agree. I think Leo should have been dead, because they really don't he's more of a plot device than anything in the second season. He just doesn't do anything. It's kind of pointless that he's even around. Yeah, Nadine, I think it would have been more powerful if they had ended it with that. Because, like what you said, like with Ed dealing with it, I think they kind of realized that they should have done that, and we get that with later on with Harry after Josie goes.
Yes.
We kind of see that, and I think that's kind of like them trying to make up for, like, oh, we should have just had this be Ed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
And then
absolutely.
like to jump on your bandwagon, what I would have done differently with season 2 is I would not have forced David Lynch and Mark Frost to reveal the killer, making them walk away from the project and making the last half of that season a complete fucking train wreck.
No.
That's just what I would have done.
And the other thing I would have done is I would have made it a 20 some episode season. I would have given them that leeway of let's make it another 2-month long season
Yeah.
coming again in April. Well, April, the beginning of April and at the end of May. I would have allowed them to truncate it.
Yeah, make it a solid again, like 8 or 9 episodes. The thing is, it's like it's hard to sustain this momentum with a 20 episode TV show that
Absolutely.
has such a singular focus. It's not like shows like Bones or like Law and Order where it doesn't matter how many episodes you have because they really don't connect often from one episode to the next. This really should have stayed very tunnel visioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's yeah, so when they were given 20 and they're like, okay, I think they just it burned them a lot. I think it burned them out.
I think you're absolutely right.
I mean, as much as I love the next episode we're going to be reviewing, which is the season 2 premiere,
mm-hmm.
you feel the burnout.
You absolutely
from
feel
Lynch,
the
you
burnout.
feel it from the direction. You feel it from Lynch and Frost with the writing. You feel it from the actors who are just, now their star is blowing up. They have all these other projects they're doing too. It was just exhaustion, I think.
I would completely agree with you on that. That's exactly what that was, and I can't argue with any of what you said there. I wouldn't have forced them to do the killer, and to do these long things. And I mean, that's just what you had was gold, and the ABC really, after coming off of that, the accolades that was this final season or this final episode is also what's somewhat of its undoing.
Yeah, it's hard to capture lightning in a bottle twice,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what the first season was. Season 2 was never going to be able to top it. It's just, and as try as they might, and as much as I love the return, they'd never top the original first season either, for me at least.
No, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I like the return, but nothing was as good as this first season. This first season was amazing. Was absolutely just amazing. And so yeah, I would completely agree with that. But yeah, those are the small things I would have done a little bit differently in terms of handling what we would have changes I would have made to the writing going into season 2. I don't know if you want to again not necessarily jump on that or make anything else in that, but I can't really say much more other than I loved it.
Yes. It's I had so much fun rewatching. Like you and I both, we rewatched this whole thing
Mm-hmm.
once a year. You have a more set time than me, but I at least make sure I rewatch it just because it's my thing, and it's just these the pilot up until episode 7, technically 8. It's so much fun. It's a lot of fun and it's a lot of mystery. And we get in a lot of things that are so synonymous with Twin Peaks, you get very little of it. We only see the Red Room once.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We see the little man once. We see Bob a handful of times.
Handful of times. Handful of times. But yes, I do. In February, I think it's what is it, February 23rd? Is when Laura Palmer dies, or February 22nd? It's Twin Peaks Day.
It's actually when we recorded our very first episode.
Yes. That's when yes, I'm sorry, it's February 24th. February 24th is when I watch the show. When he says it's 11:30 a.m., I'm driving in the February 24th. I'm driving in the Twin Peaks. Now, Twin Peaks Day, when we did our first episode, was actually
The day
uh,
Laura Palmer died.
yes, yep. And so I, just have to say, fucking love it. So that's when I go back and rewatch it. Now, this year's a little bit different with me because I'm watching it for the podcast. So like when I only watched those 2 episodes. Today, I only watched the last episode, but I actually watched it twice. I watched it twice today, in order to get it up and going. Yes, you and I love this show. This is our mythos. This is kind of the fantasy world that I wanted, really got into, and that's why I love the Secret History, and really being able to end the final dossier of really being able to, what is it and what is going on. And I will honestly go forward and say that the next episode, which is going to be we're only going to do one episode again next week,
Yep.
which is going to be episode. I'm just going to go season 1, episode 2. People will call it episode 9. I'm just going to go season 2.
Episode 1, May the Giant Be With You.
That is arguably up there with episode 3, Zen, my favorite episode.
Yes, it's David Lynch is back in the director's seat. In fact, he directs the first 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he does.
And frankly, we do have a pretty good run of episodes here. It goes up until the 7th is the reveal. Next few episodes are all right, and then it becomes the shit show. Until
episode 10 is when the drop really hits in my book.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I would have done differently, knowing what we know, I would have not have done I really, really fucking hate, and I think we could talk about this now, that we're through the first season, is what they do with Lucy and Andy.
Yes, it's a tragedy. Season 2. And we get little Nicky, the demon child, with some of the worst CG television history. We get Dick Tremaine.
Motherfucking Dick Tremaine. You know what? Again, knowing what I know and rewriting it, what I would have done is I would have left it in that storyline of he didn't know, because you find out that the reason why you find out very early in season 2, we're not giving too much away here, it's, C plot, B plot, is that Andy is infertile. And I would have left that, but I would have made it more so where Lucy is like, no, it's yours. It has to be yours. And had played that dynamic versus bringing in fucking Dick Tremaine.
Oh, God, I don't even remember. He works at Horn's department store, too.
He works in the men's suits.
Yeah, God.
Yep, he sells men's suits at Horn's department store.
We're going to have to come up with a list of the worst characters in season 2 because Tremaine's up there with John Justice Wheeler.
Oh, John Justice Wheeler. And honestly, Nadine.
Yep,
Nadine is up there.
One of the characters I loved in the first season, and I grew to despise in the second season, and then relearned my love of her in the return.
They did her justice in the return. They really did. And I would say I would also argue, who else is worse? The entire James storyline. And
God, I almost feel like cracking a beer just thinking of that.
So this is, I think, yours and I's anger of James is not from the actor. It really isn't. I give him shit. But honestly, he did good with what he had, especially in this season. And I would have rewrote the character in the second season. But
yeah,
what his storyline is in the second season is so fucking bad.
Yeah,
that
it's generally reviled by every Twin Peaks fan. I have yet to speak to somebody who's like, I didn't mind the James Evelyn thing. Like, it doesn't exist. There's
it
not.
doesn't exist. It's hated. I mean to the point where in my rewatches, I actually fast forward through
Yeah,
that shit because it has no semblance of anything with the plot.
yeah.
And
This
and the thing is, it never was meant to, and it was meant to be its own thing. And knowing that there wasn't anything after season 2, and just how the storyline just gets fucking dropped one day, it's so fucking atrocious.
Yeah. My understanding is they were treading water after Lynch Frost walked away, and this was just basically a placeholder, just to keep the show going because they were kind of rudderless.
Well, I mean, it's
All they had
filler.
was like the plans for Wyndham Earl, and that's it. Like, I don't think Lynch and Frost gave them much more than that.
I mean, and when you look at a lot of it, that's the biggest sin of season 2 was that number one, it's like 22, 23 episodes. And after episode 10, it is nothing but filler. I argue that even the Wyndham Earl shit is filler.
Yeah,
It doesn't move anything. The
I think,
show,
yeah.
what's that?
Wyndham Earl was probably, I think, in the better hands of Lynch and Frost would have been more effective than he was because they
Absolutely.
bring him up right away in the second season. He's a looming force, and then it just, it the network crapped the bed by forcing their hand.
Yeah,
Like,
I would wholeheartedly agree that in the hands of Lynch and Frost, Wyndham Earl would have been better. I don't doubt that at all. But what we got outside of the only thing that was interesting in season 2 is really becomes one of our favorite characters is Major Briggs.
yes, Briggs is a major. He's a major character, and I love how they made him even bigger after Don Davis had passed on. Like, he's huge
Uh-huh.
in the Secret History. He's huge in the Return. He's fucking for a character who's like the actor's long dead that they made him
Mhm.
like the pretty much the character who is the central mystery
Yeah,
was amazing.
absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And so we'll get into that, but yes, we have an enjoyable ride up till about episode 9. 9 and 10 are going to start to get where we're going to start going, oh shit, and then we're going to hit the cliff. So,
Yeah.
but before then, I'm going to especially enjoy next week's episode of season 2, episode 1. I am so looking forward to watching that episode. I might even do it when we're done doing the podcast because I love that episode. I might fall asleep to it tonight.
Oh, it's great. It's great, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it too.
So, well, I want to, thank you everyone for listening. I don't know if Audrey's page is gonna comment on this or listen to us or what, but that was awesome that we spoke that I recommended a couple of podcasts ago to Joe to check out this website where this music that Audrey dances to, where this person particularly takes that scene of Audrey dancing in the diner, the iconic scene, and puts different music to it. And we had a talk with them, and we were talking about the James singing scene, and the owner of that page said, you know what? Luckily on my box set, I'm oddly enough missing that disc, so I don't have to see that. And I'm going, you son of a bitch.
Oh, can we make a cut of the episode where we just cut that part out?
I don't normally do video for this, but I might I might splice that video in. And what's sad is I know this. I'm sure you know the story behind it too. I don't want to get into it yet.
Yeah,
but
we'll get into it because
there's
I found an article that I shared with Paul stating that us being mad at the actor, saying that we shouldn't be mad at the actor, was misguided.
It is, but there's more to it than that, though. There is more to that, though. And I'll get into that as well, because as much as that article says that, I know some things that Lynch did with that, and that James was not happy. So,
yeah, well, man, it's his fucking falsetto voice singing that stupid song, man.
Son of a bitch.
God
Son
damn
of
it,
a
James.
bitch. God damn it, James. You know, if I was the actor, if I was James, I would have quit. I would have said, fuck you. You're doing my character injustice. Fuck you guys. You can't do this.
No offense, James Marshall, if you're listening.
No, none. No, none. None to him. It's not his fault. I really don't
except
blame
for
him.
your role in that song, which I'll never forgive you for.
Oh, and we'll get to that in the episode. I do forgive him for, and I will talk about that because there were some things that he was not happy with on that song as well. So we'll get to that. But no, you know, the thing is again, Joe and I are jaded. We'll be the first to tell you we're two jaded fucks. And we've been going at it from a critical eye, but we legitimately love the series. We wouldn't be doing this podcast if we didn't.
Yeah, no, we love Twin Peaks. We love it. And so when it does us wrong, we get mad.
We get mad. And here's the thing. It's now, you know, almost
30 years.
30 years
it was
old.
the 30th anniversary just last week.
It was the 30th anniversary. I didn't get to see Kyle MacLachlan's live stream because it was at a point where I was doing you know, going behind the scenes a little bit with Voldemort being around. Yeah. I'm handling the kids' distance learning, so I was helping the kids with their distance learning during that time. So I didn't get a chance to sit back and watch it. But you know, I would have loved to had I had the opportunity to. But yeah, it's the 30th anniversary. So, you know, if you can't have and look at things critically and say what was right and wrong from 30 years ago, you know, you got to have a sense of humor about these things. And, you know, again, I'm too critical. Joe, you'll probably admit the same thing. I can't be a fanboy of anything.
No, Twin Peaks is probably the closest thing I'm a fanboy of. And there's things that I obviously, if at this point, there's things I pointed out jokingly and, you know, logistically, it's funny. But the first season, I don't have anything that really sparked my ire.
No.
That comes in season 2. And look, I love Twin Peaks. Like Paul said, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't love it. But it shits the bed so bad for me that it's hard for me to like. It's going to be vitriolic, I think, after episode 10. That's why we're going to do it as a big chunk.
Yeah,
we can't be angry every week. It's not good for our blood pressure.
No,
we'd stroke out by the end of James Everland's love triangle.
And we're not going to make a decision right now, but we've already decided that we're not going to do it in 2-episode chunks. And I think as we get closer and as we start doing this, we'll let it organically come to fruition about how we'll handle that. Maybe it's a storyline. Maybe it's just, okay, during this episode, we're going to talk about the Dick Tremaine storyline, and maybe we'll talk about the James storyline, and maybe we'll talk about the Nadine storyline on a separate episode, and maybe we'll talk about the Norma storyline, and maybe we'll talk about the Shelley storyline, and just kind of.
There's not a lot to even talk about. It's the weird thing about those episodes is there are a lot of them, and nothing really happens.
It's. I'm going to get really harsh here. So again, if you're a giant Twin Peaks fan and you cannot handle criticism, go ahead and stop the podcast now. But I'm going to equate it to a spinning clogged toilet. It doesn't work and nothing goes anywhere.
Yes. That is exactly. after Lynch Frost walk away, I don't blame them. If I was, this is their baby, and it's it treads water. It when it should have just sunk.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they should have yeah. So yeah, we love it, but we're gonna point out like this. If you've been listening the whole season, we make fun of things, but it's in good humor.
Absolutely.
That's gonna change. It's gonna change after the reveal.
It's gonna change at the reveal, and you know what? I don't think anyone's gonna fault us for that. That was involved in the project. If anyone comes across this and listens to our podcast, because there was a lot of animosity running around behind the scenes.
Yeah, they weren't. Nobody was really happy after
No.
and Frost. Sherilyn Fenn has, she's probably like the only one who's really been pretty open about the post Lynch Frost stuff, and that she was pissed, and she doesn't like it, and I wish more of them were more candid like that. A lot of them backtrack now and say like, well, Lynch and Frost didn't really leave, and like I hate this like retconning history that they're trying to do.
Yeah,
a lot of this happened in the lead up to the return because they're trying to get good PR, but people have to remember like Kyle MacLachlan was so mad that Lynch had to rewrite Fire Walk with Me because he didn't be in it.
And you have to understand that Lynch and MacLachlan have had a great relationship over the years, and he needed a break from all this, from that experience. That they had to rewrite Fire Walk with Me, and I mean they've done a lot of projects together. And
how was Kyle's career as start? Like his first movies were Dune and Blue Velvet. Then he goes right into Twin Peaks, and then does Fire Walk with Me, but he also does Showgirls.
Okay. I gotta
add that to my list for the Joe Down.
I gotta add that to the list for fucking cast that. But I'm gonna say this, he walked out, and when and everyone that was involved, and because I've actually looked into this for Cast That Movie because it's one on our list of one to do, is that this is a prime example of what I've talked about. If you've listened to a lot of the Cast That Movies, and again, we're going to go the next one that's going to be releasing tomorrow morning, along with this podcast will be releasing tonight, is that actors sign up for what script that they're given, and then when they get on set, the script's changed. And this is something that has been a plague in Hollywood for a long time. And Ghostbusters 2 or Ghostbusters no, not Ghostbusters 2, but what is it? Ghostbusters Answer the Call, it's called now. That's what it's called now. The reboot. Basically, very similar situation where Paul Feig and the writers didn't even bother to have most of it written. They had an outline and they went with fucking ad-libs for a majority of the movie.
Which is, I mean, I don't mind that movie, but the magic of the first Ghostbusters is Bill Murray's the only one who does that. You got to have at least a good, you can't have everybody throwing spaghetti at the wall,
The biggest to me when it came to, because I watched Ghostbusters 1 and 2, my daughter, and then she went and saw Answer the Call, and she hated it. My daughter hated it. She hated Answer the Call, and which was really disappointing to me because she actually really loves the Ghostbusters universe. My daughter does. And the biggest thing, all they had to do, and there's been many articles about this, and I said this from the get-go, why I was upset with it, was all they had to do was make the Katie McKinnon character the daughter of Egon. That's all they had to do. That's all.
Now they're just doing that with the new reboot.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what they're doing with the new reboot. That's all they had to do. And you would have appeased everybody. It wouldn't have been so fucking ridiculous. And I really blame that movie. Now, obviously, there were incels. Obviously, there are man children. How dare you take these girls and put girls in and blah, 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 these man children. Fuck those people. Okay. Fuck those people. I don't speak for them. I really don't. But on the flip side, I will say that I also really am upset that Paul Feig tried to make this a marketing thing and about women's empowerment, not Ghostbusters Answer the Call. That was the wrong movie to do that with.
Yeah, no shit.
Because it wasn't good. It wasn't good. And Rotten Tomatoes, it's a 74%. And you look, and this is for a long time. I had a problem with Rotten Tomatoes because it was at like a fucking 60, and then overnight it jumped to like a 74 somehow and got a fresh rating. Sorry, that's not a fresh movie. There's issues abound with that, and I really blame that movie for creating this toxic atmosphere that's out there right now, with everything that's going on in that universe that I've just kind of had to walk away from and just go, whatever. I'm not going to be a part of these fucking these drama stories. But we went way off track here. Point is, Showgirls was not McLaughlin's fault. He actually walked out of the premiere because he was so pissed at what he had signed up for, what he was told the movie was going to be, and what it turned out to be. And same thing with Elizabeth Berkley. She didn't walk out, but she was absolutely furious, and everyone that was involved in that movie was furious about what they were given, what they filmed, and what was put on screen.
Who made that? Because it's somehow it's found a new life as a cult classic.
Well, so I can't. I'll look it up right now.
I'll look it up here while you.
No, I'm doing it right now because it actually was a famous director that why
Paul Verhoeven, wasn't it?
What's that?
Paul Verhoeven, who did
Verhoeven. It was Verhoeven.
Yep, did Total Recall. He did RoboCop. He did a lot of like these really cool.
Yes, he did Starship Troopers. He did Basic Instinct. He did Total Recall. He did RoboCop. So yeah, when Kyle MacLachlan, everyone signed on board, they were like, "This is fucking awesome." So yeah, absolutely. Everyone was super excited to be on board for it, and it ruined everyone's career. Really, I mean, yeah, he had
Paul Verhoeven.
Well, no, I mean even his, because afterwards he did Super Troopers, Starship Troopers, which he was already signed on to do. But then after that, he got one thing with Hollow Man, which was panned.
Yeah,
and then
movie.
Yeah, and then he did Black Book and a video for Starship Trooper, and then nothing till 2012. So no,
I guess yes.
really, really, really hurt everyone involved. I mean, Gina Gershon, her star power went down. Kyle MacLachlan's star power went down. Elizabeth Berkley, poor thing, that was her first, in there, and she trusted that guy to do it. Everyone else
was so excited. She is so excited, and now she's scared.
And now she's scared. I'm so scared. So yeah, I mean, I don't. Kyle MacLachlan, to me, I mean, I want to just go through real quick and just, I mean, okay, he did Twin Peaks, right? He did, as he talked about, Blue Velvet. He did Dune. He did the Twin Peaks. He was in a Tales from the Crypt episode. He was, oh God, he was in the Flintstones. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we did that on the joke.
Okay, so yeah, he was in that.
His career took a dive, but he actually, like, with some bit roles, because he ended up like on, what was it, like Sex and the City and stuff.
Yeah, he ended up with Sex and the City, and he ended up
being one of my favorite characters. He was the mayor on Portlandia.
Portlandia, he was great in Portlandia. Yep, he was. He's
found like a new life. He kind of Showgirls didn't help, but he was able to recover.
And then he did Desperate Housewives for years.
Yeah, so he was able to pull himself out of it.
Yep.
Unfortunately, nobody else really involved with Showgirls.
No, and he was the captain in How I Met Your Mother.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, he did a lot of things, and he's great. He's awesome in Portlandia. One of the best characters in Portlandia. So yeah, he's actually got an upcoming project, in Atlantic Crossing, where he plays President Roosevelt.
Oh,
Yeah.
but yeah, Showgirls. Yeah, I think we talked about when I guest on cast that movie. The Super Mario Brothers was another instance where the script was completely changed from what everybody signed up for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is yeah.
Yeah, So, and again, this is what happens to Twin Peaks, right? You sign up for this, and then David and Frost and Lynch walk, and then everyone else is given this new thing, and now your character's got new direction. Everybody was miserable.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it, but like Cooper is kicked out of the FBI or put on a hiatus, and he's just like he's dressed like a lumberjack. Uh, Ben Horn relives the Civil War.
Or John Justice Wheeler comes in
Oh yeah,
because
because Laura Flynn Boyle.
yeah. We've been pussyfooting around that. I think we can say that real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. So in between the end of season 1 and going into season 2, Kyle MacLachlan and Laura Flynn Boyle entered into a relationship, and the storyline was supposed to be that Cheryl Flynn, played Audrey, and Cooper were supposed to have a relationship, and Laura Flynn Boyle was insanely jealous of this and didn't want to risk them having an on-screen relationship that could interfere with their off-screen relationship. So Kyle MacLachlan went to the writing team and said, I don't think there should be a relationship between Cooper and Audrey because he's an FBI agent, she's a high school student, and that would just really go against character and blah blah blah. And people were like, but Kyle, she's 18, blah blah blah. And everyone kind of knew what was going on and kind of empathized with Kyle a little bit on this and said, okay, we'll rework it. So Audrey ended up really getting fucked by
Yeah,
Laura Flynn Boyle, backstage politicking behind the scenes.
yeah, and it doesn't surprise me that she never worked with Lynch again. That kind of stuff. Just, I believe she was invited for the return, but with a bit role. Yeah, this is kind of stuff that Lynch hates.
Mm-hmm.
He does. If you're messing with his art, then fuck off is pretty much his.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and he did try to get her back, they were doing Where the Day Takes You, and Laura Flynn Boyle, unfortunately, she is her own worst enemy. She,
his history has proven this time and time again.
yeah, she just a lot of. I mean, I'm not going to get into it because it's just if you guys really are interested in it, you could dig it up there,
Yeah,
but
it's out there.
it's out there, and she unfortunately had a really rocky. I mean, and which sucks is she was talented. I mean, she was she was in well, unfortunately, her first couple roles, her scenes were deleted. Did you know that she was in Ferris Bueller and she was in Dead Poets Society, and both of her things were cut.
Well,
Uh,
I mean,
yeah, but she
this
really
was
got her.
kind of proven that was probably maybe the right choice.
Maybe, but she was in she was in a Poltergeist 3, The Rookie, which was a big movie at the time, Wayne's World, she played that. But yeah, I mean, you would expected, I mean, she was supposed to be a really big star. She was
She was in
really
Men in
expected.
Black, wasn't she?
She was in Men in Black 2.
Men in
Hmm.
Black too. Yeah, so she hopped onto a giant franchise only to never be asked again.
Yeah. Yeah, the latest thing that she was in is a project called Death in Texas, which other than that, she was in The Practice for a while. She was on Ally McBeal very shortly. She was supposed to have a bigger role in that, and that didn't happen. So yeah, Laura Flynn Boyle did Laura Flynn Boyle. And I mean, what do you expect from someone who dated David Spade and Jack Nicholson?
Jesus Christ. Yeah, no. So background politics kind of it derailed it. It kneecapped some of the elements in season 2, but I mean, yeah, it's this was a show that was lightning in a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
The stars are making demands now. It's not this upstart nobody knows thing. So, but we'll get into that when we start watching season 2 next week.
Yes, sir. So I'll just go shoot us out here. So you can check us out on the joedown.blog, which Joe is the owner of, is the main website for everything that everything that we talked about here. Cast That Movie, the Joe Down, above a convenience store. There's a few other things that you're working on there too, isn't there, Joe?
There's things I worked on like years ago, but no, nothing really right now. But we'll probably have some other things coming up with Paul and I and other people involved. We've been spitballing ideas, but yeah, just keep an eye out.
Yep. And then you can find us on YouTube, which is the name of the show here, which is Above a Convenience Store Talking Twin Peaks. And you can find us. We have a Facebook page as well. You can talk to us. Do that on. You guys, for the Joe Down, you just did American Pie, right, Joe?
Oh God. Yep.
And Cool Hand Luke, which is one of my favorite movies. You and I were in film studies together.
Yeah. At Tech.
Yes, at Tech. Yep. We got to watch that movie.
Where we watched that and Shawshank.
Yep. Absolutely. I personally love that movie. I know you guys took some digs at it, but yes, there's a lot of Christ-like figures in that. What was your takeaway from the American Pie, Joe?
Oh God, it was the worst elements of the 90s. Everything was bad about it. Everything about that movie was terrible.
It didn't age well, did it?
It
didn't age well at all.
I didn't even like it when it came out. Like I was baffled why people were telling me to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just being stone faced staring at it like, oh God. It's like I said in the review, they saw Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds and they're like, what if we did the underdog story, but this time with the popular kids?
I was going to say, this felt like it was trying to redo Porky's. And I saw that your guys's, when your guys's were talking about that in your review, and I was like, yes. Personally, I love Porky's.
But Porky's wasn't the popular kids.
No. Well, Pee-wee wasn't, but Tommy was somewhat popular. They were the basketball team. They were the basketball team.
These guys were like, these were like the bullies, and like we're trying to be there.
Yes.
They want us to root for the bullies. Like, yeah, no, it didn't work for me.
No, not like Porky's did, because you could relate with Porky's in for what it was. And again, the popular kids were a little bit different back in the day. But yeah, I absolutely thought it was trying to retread Porky's. So all right, so that's where you can find us all. Joe, thank you once again for doing this with me and moving it to every week, especially during Voldemort. I love doing these podcasts. Do you have anything else to add, sir, for everyone before we go out?
With chemicals, he points.